Commander Vex stared at the holographic map of Earth with smug satisfaction. The invasion was proceeding exactly as planned. 57 major cities had fallen in just 3 Earth days, with minimal damage to the planet's resources. The humans' primitive weapons had proven laughably ineffective against Voldarian shields. "Status report," he demanded, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Lieutenant Kroll approached with a crisp salute. "Excellent progress, Commander. Northern continent is 63% pacified. Southern landmasses at 48%. Resistance is scattered and disorganized." Vex's mouth tentacles twitched with pleasure. The Supreme Council had warned that humans might prove unpredictable. But their species had conquered 17 worlds, and humans seemed no different than the others. Initial shock, futile resistance, then inevitable surrender. "Their communications?" Vex asked. "Mostly disabled. Their military channels are jammed, and we've seized control of their broadcasting networks. The human leaders who haven't been captured are in hiding." Perfect. The Voldarian invasion protocol was working flawlessly. Neutralize communications, decapitate leadership, display overwhelming force, accept surrender. "And casualties?" Vex inquired, already knowing the answer. "Minimal, sir. 12 Voldarian soldiers lost, mostly to accidents. Human casualties approximately 3 million. Vex nodded approvingly. The Council preferred intact populations for labor. This conquest would earn him the Golden Claw, surely. On the view screen, a human news broadcast they'd allowed to continue played silently. A terrified reporter stood before the ruins of a city called Paris, the massive Voldarian warship Desolation hovering above the shattered Eiffel Tower. Their iconography demolished, their spirits broken. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Traz, "we're detecting unusual activity from their remaining military bases." Vex waved a dismissive claw. "Let me guess, they're marshaling for a counterattack, preparing their nuclear weapons." He chuckled. "Their atomics cannot penetrate our shields, and we've neutralized 90% of their launch capabilities." "No, sir." Traz looked confused. "They appear to be retreating, abandoning their bases. Even their underground command centers are emptying." Vex's head crest rose slightly. This was unusual. In their conquests, species typically concentrated forces, not dispersed them. "Perhaps they're surrendering sooner than expected," Lieutenant Kroll suggested. Perhaps. But Vex felt uneasy. The Council's briefing had emphasized human unpredictability as their one notable trait. Increased surveillance on these retreating forces. And what of their submarines? "Still unaccounted for, sir. Our sensors have difficulty tracking them in their deep oceans." Vex scratched his neck scales. "A minor concern. Human submarines couldn't threaten their ships." "Commander," the sensor officer called, "we're detecting unusual seismic activity." "Earthquakes?" Vex asked. "No, sir. More like vibrations. Widespread. Emanating from multiple locations, primarily from areas where humans have evacuated." Vex's crest now fully extended, his species' involuntary response to potential danger. "Show me." The holographic display shifted to a global view, with dozens of points pulsing red. "Analysis," he demanded. Science Officer Mira approached. "Unknown, Commander. It doesn't match any known human weapon signature. Energy readings are puzzling." As they watched, a new communication broke through on their command channel. A human face appeared on screen. Not frightened, not pleading. The human male, older with gray hair, wore a simple uniform and smiled calmly. "This is General Frank Harmon of Earth's United Defense Force," the human said. "We wish to inform you that while your invasion has indeed been impressive, we're afraid it's about to encounter some complications." Vex stared in disbelief. "What is this?" The human smiled wider. "You brought ships to a planet fight. That was your first mistake. The transmission cut, and the seismic readings suddenly intensified. The first tremor hit like a physical blow, nearly knocking Vex off his feet. Alarms blared throughout the command ship. "Report," he shouted as the deck continued to vibrate beneath them. "Sir," massive energy spike from beneath the surface. The sensor officer cried. It's everywhere." On the main view screen, impossible images appeared. In a desert region of the northern continent, the ground itself was opening. Not cracking or splitting, but moving with purpose, massive panels sliding aside to reveal what lay beneath. "Magnify," Vex ordered, his voice barely audible over the alarms. The image zoomed in, revealing an enormous circular structure where sand and rock had been moments before. Before Vex could process what he was seeing, a blinding column of energy erupted from the opening, shooting skyward with terrifying speed. "Evasive maneuvers," he screamed, but it was too late. The beam struck the Voldarian warship subjugator hovering 12 kilometers above. For a moment, the ship's shields flared brilliant blue against the attack. Then they collapsed, and the beam sliced through the vessel like it was made of paper. The massive warship, 3 kilometers long and home to 8,000 Voldarian soldiers, split cleanly in two before erupting in a fireball visible from orbit. Stunned silence fell over the command deck. "Sir," Lieutenant Kroll whispered, "similar structures are activating worldwide." 53. No. 78. No. Over 100 locations. The holographic display was now lit up with activation points across the planet. Vex stared in horror as energy beams lanced upward from every continent, striking his invasion fleet with devastating precision. "Impossible," he muttered. "Our scans showed no weapons of this magnitude." "They were hidden, sir," Science Officer Mira said. "Deep underground. And our scans were blocked by something in their planet's crust. A mineral we've never encountered before." Another blast rocked the command ship as a nearby vessel exploded. "Status of the fleet," Vex demanded. "We've lost 23 ships already, sir. More are reporting shield failures." This couldn't be happening. The humans were primitives, barely space-capable. Their most advanced weapons had been neutralized in the first hours of the invasion. The communication channel activated again, showing General Harmon's face. "Surprised?" the human asked, looking remarkably calm. "You should do better research before invading a planet. Earth isn't just our home, it's our fortress." "What are those weapons?" Vex demanded. "We call them geokinetic defense arrays. Been building them for the past 70 years, ever since we detected your signals and realized what was out there. Thousands of them, buried beneath our planet's surface, powered by Earth's own magnetic core." Another tremor shook the ship as a second wave of attacks launched from the planet's surface. "Your shields are designed to repel external threats," Harmon continued. "But we're not attacking from space. We're attacking from a planet, our planet, and we've had a long time to prepare." Vex's mind raced. None of their intelligence had indicated this level of technological advancement. How had they hidden this? "Sir," Lieutenant Kroll interrupted, "the human military forces that retreated, they're not retreating. They're moving to secondary positions." On the tactical display, Vex watched in disbelief as human forces emerged from hidden bunkers worldwide, armed with weapons unlike anything in their intelligence briefings. Tanks that hovered above the ground, soldiers in powered armor suits, aircraft that moved with impossible agility. "Second wave deploying now," General Harmon said, almost apologetically. "Oh, and about those submarines you couldn't track. There was a reason for that." At that moment, massive forms began rising from Earth's oceans, submersible carriers over a kilometer long, disgorging swarms of aircraft. Vex realized the terrible truth. This wasn't an invasion going smoothly. It was an ambush. "All ships, regroup in high orbit," Vex ordered, fighting to keep panic from his voice. "Defensive formation Theta 9. The surviving Voldarian vessels began pulling away from Earth's atmosphere, abandoning their vulnerable positions over human cities. Every moment, more of his ships were being struck by the planet-based energy weapons. "Sir, we've lost 30% of the invasion fleet," reported Lieutenant Kroll, his voice shaking. "Ground forces are cut off from evacuation." Vex's mind raced. 200,000 Voldarian soldiers were now stranded on the surface, separated from the fleet. But protocol was clear. The ships had to be preserved at all costs. "Keep moving to high orbit," he commanded. "Deploy all available fighters to cover the retreat." As the command ship ascended, Vex studied the tactical displays with growing horror. The humans were emerging everywhere, revealing military capabilities that had been completely absent from Voldarian intelligence reports. In what they'd called North America, massive armored vehicles were rolling out of mountain bunkers, engaging Voldarian ground forces. These weren't the simple tracked vehicles they'd cataloged. These hovered above the ground on gravitational fields that should have been beyond human technology. Across Europe, networks of smaller defense arrays were activating, creating energy shields over cities they had thought conquered. Voldarian troops found themselves suddenly trapped outside the shields, facing well-equipped human resistance fighters. "Sir," called Science Officer Mira, "I've analyzed their defense systems. The technology it appears to be derived from the same principles as our own, but with significant modifications." "Impossible," Vex snarled. "Humans couldn't have developed this independently." "I don't believe they did," Mira replied quietly. "Sir, remember the Xanthi exploratory mission? The one that went missing in this sector 300 cycles ago." Vex felt his blood run cold. The Xanthi were a minor species, but technologically advanced. Their disappearance had been written off as a deep space accident. "Are you suggesting their ship crashed here?" Mira said. "And instead of conquering the humans, they appear to have allied with them. Shared technology. These defense systems show clear Xanthi influence, but adapted for use with Earth's unique properties." On the main screen, the human general appeared again. "Your retreat is pointless, Commander," Harmon said calmly. "We've allowed your ships to reach high orbit for a reason." "What reason?" Vex demanded, even as instinct told him he wouldn't like the answer. The human smiled. "To make sure you're in range of our orbital platforms." Suddenly, the tactical display lit up with new alerts. Hundreds of small objects, previously camouflaged as debris or small asteroids in Earth's orbit, were powering up. "Did you think we'd defend our planet, but not our orbital space?" Harmon asked. "These platforms have been in place for decades, disguised as satellites and space junk. Your scans interpreted them as harmless because that's what we wanted." The first barrage from the orbital platforms struck 3 Voldarian ships simultaneously, bypassing their shields entirely with precisely calibrated energy frequencies. "You see," Harmon continued, "we didn't just study your transmission signals. We study your shield technology, your weapons, your tactics. Every time you conquered another world, we watched and learned." Vex stared at the human's face, finally understanding the magnitude of their miscalculation. The Council had been right about human unpredictability, but for the wrong reasons. Humans hadn't just prepared for invasion, they had prepared specifically for a Voldarian invasion. "This isn't a conquest," Vex realized aloud. "It's a trap." "Emergency Council transmission incoming," announced Communications Officer Traz, his voice strained. The holographic display flickered, revealing the imposing figure of Grand Counselor Drax, his black ceremonial armor gleaming under the council chamber lights. His expression made Vex's blood run cold. "Commander Vex," Drax said, his voice dangerously calm. "Would you care to explain why I'm receiving reports of catastrophic fleet losses from what should have been a routine pacification?" Vex struggled to maintain composure. "Grand Counselor, we've encountered unexpected resistance. The humans have weapons and defenses far beyond their expected technological level. They appear to have been preparing for our arrival for decades." "Impossible," Drax dismissed. "Our intelligence was thorough." With respect, "Sir, our intelligence was wrong," Vex replied, aware he was risking his career, and possibly his life. "The humans have planetary defense systems unlike anything we've encountered, and they're specifically calibrated against our technology." A massive blast rocked the command ship, cutting off Drax's reply. 3 more Voldarian vessels had just been destroyed by the orbital platforms. "We've lost 45% of the fleet," Lieutenant Kroll reported grimly. "And the humans are launching something else." The tactical display showed hundreds of small craft rising from Earth's surface, sleek, dart-like vessels that moved with incredible speed. "Analysis," Vex demanded. "Fighter craft, sir, but unlike their previous models. These appear to be, sir, they're utilizing folded space drives. They're making micro-jumps in atmosphere." Vex felt a chill. Folded space technology was amongst the Voldarian Empire's most closely guarded secrets. The implications were staggering. The Grand Counselor's transmission stabilized again. "Commander, what is happening?" "Sir, I believe the humans have had access to advanced technology for some time. Possibly Xanthi technology, possibly ours." Drax's eyes widened. "The emissary probe, the one we sent 200 cycles ago, that went silent." "It's the only explanation," Vex confirmed. "They've had 2 centuries to study our technology, understand our tactics, and prepare specifically for us." Another explosion lit up the view screen as the human fighters engaged the Voldarian vessels, using their micro-jumps to appear inside shield perimeters before firing. "Sir," interrupted Science Officer Mira, "the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're addressing everyone." The transmission appeared on screen, showing General Harmon standing in what appeared to be a command center deep underground. Behind him stood representatives of various human nations, united in purpose. "Attention, Voldarian forces," Harmon began. "Your invasion has failed. Your ground troops are surrounded, and your fleet is being systematically destroyed. We are offering one chance for surrender." Vex hissed in disbelief. "Surrender to primitives." "However," Harmon continued, "this offer comes with conditions. First, you will share the location of every world you have conquered. Second, you will provide transport to help us liberate those worlds." Grand Counselor Drax, still connected via hologram, snarled, "This is outrageous. You dare to dictate terms to the Voldarian Empire." Harmon's expression remained impassive. "We're not just defending our world, Counselor. We're declaring war on your empire. Humanity has watched your conquests from afar, cataloging your atrocities. We've prepared not just to defend Earth, but to free every world under your control." "With what?" Drax scoffed. "You have surprised us here, but you have no means to threaten our empire." Harmon smiled thinly. "That's where you're wrong. Commander Vex, please have your science officer examine Earth's moon." Confused, Vex nodded to Mira, who directed sensors toward the lunar surface. What they saw defied belief. Massive sections of the moon's surface were retracting, revealing what lay beneath: shipyards, dozens of them, with vessels under construction that dwarfed even the largest Voldarian warships. "We've been building these for 50 years, Harmon explained. "The first fleet is ready to launch. Your empire's days of conquest are over." Vex stared at the screen, understanding washing over him like a cold wave. This wasn't just a failed invasion. It was the beginning of humanity's counterattack. Chaos erupted on the command deck as the implications became clear. "Sir, the human vessels are launching from their lunar facilities," Lieutenant Kroll reported, voice breaking with stress. On the tactical display, Vex watched as massive warships rose from the moon's surface, each easily twice the size of his command vessel. Their design was unlike anything he'd seen before, neither purely human nor Voldarian, but something new altogether. "How many?" he asked numbly. 28 capital ships and hundreds of support vessels." Grand Counselor Drax's hologram flickered as he received the same information. His expression had transformed from arrogance to barely concealed fear. "This cannot be happening," Drax muttered. "A primitive world like this cannot have built such a fleet in secret." General Harmon, still on the main communication channel, overheard. "Primitive? Is that still how you see us?" He shook his head. "Your arrogance is why you've already lost. While you conquered worlds through brute force, we've been building alliances." "Alliances?" Vex asked. "With whom?" "The survivors," Harmon replied simply. "Every species that escaped your conquests. The refugees you didn't bother to hunt down. For decades, they've been coming to Earth. Scientists, engineers, warriors, all with a common purpose: to build a force capable of ending your empire." As if on cue, the bridge doors of Harmon's command center opened, and Vex's heart nearly stopped. Walking into view were representatives of species the Voldarians had conquered or attempted to conquer: a Xanthi scientist, a Pellerin warrior, even a Creole tactician. Species that should have been enemies were standing united alongside humans. "You," Vex struggled to comprehend. "You've united our enemies." "We've united the victims of your aggression," Harmon corrected. "Earth became the sanctuary you never thought to look for, hidden in plain sight. Too primitive to be a threat, you believed." The lunar fleet was now moving into formation, preparing to engage the remaining Voldarian ships. Their design philosophy was now clear to Vex's experienced eye. They incorporated the best technological aspects of multiple species, seamlessly integrated. "Your remaining ships are surrounded," Harmon continued. "Your ground forces are cut off. I'm offering you one final opportunity, Commander Vex. Surrender." Vex looked to the Grand Counselor's hologram. Drax's expression had hardened into cold calculation. "Do not surrender, Commander," Drax ordered. "The hegemony fleet is only 6 cycles away. Hold position until reinforcements arrive." Vex hesitated. 6 cycles, 12 Earth days. Could his remaining forces survive that long? "Sir," Science Officer Mira interrupted urgently, "I'm detecting unusual activity from the human lunar vessels." "What activity?" Vex demanded. "They're charging some kind of drive system I've never seen before. The energy readings are off the charts." General Harmon smiled. "Ah, you've noticed our new propulsion system. Another gift from our coalition of allies, specifically Xanthifold technology combined with Creole harmonic physics. We call it the Ripple Drive." "What does it do?" Vex asked, dreading the answer. "It allows instantaneous travel between star systems," Harmon replied. "Your hegemony fleet, we can reach your homeworld before they even arrive here." The blood drained from Drax's face. "You're bluffing. Such technology is theoretical at best." "Is it? We tracked your invasion fleet from 50 light-years away, Counselor. How do you think we had time to prepare so precisely for your arrival?" Vex suddenly understood the humans' confidence. They weren't just defending their world. They had the means to take the fight directly to the Voldarian Empire. "Commander Vex," Harmon said, his voice now steel, "I won't ask again. Surrender your forces, or we will be forced to demonstrate our resolve more emphatically." Vex looked at the tactical display, at his shattered fleet, at the overwhelming human forces. Then he looked at Drax, whose expression had transformed into pure hate. "Counselor," Vex said quietly, "I believe surrender is our only option." "Traitor," Drax spat. "You would betray the Empire." "I would save what remains of our forces," Vex replied. "The Empire has miscalculated." He turned back to Harmon. "General, I am prepared to discuss terms." As the words left his mouth, Vex knew the Voldarian Empire would never be the same. The invasion of Earth hadn't just failed, it had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Humanity was going to war. 3 Earth days later, Commander Vex stood on the observation deck of the human flagship Retribution, watching as the last of his surviving ground forces were loaded onto transport vessels. Of his original invasion fleet of 200 ships, only 49 remained, all now under human control. General Harmon stood beside him, hands clasped behind his back. Your soldiers will be treated well. Commander, we're not monsters, despite what you might think. Vex said nothing, still processing the magnitude of their defeat. Over 100,000 Voldarian troops had surrendered. The greatest military disaster in Imperial history, and he would forever be associated with it. The first Liberation fleet departs in 6 hours. Harmon continued, nodding toward the massive vessels hanging in orbit. We've selected 3 of your conquered worlds to free first, those most recently taken, where resistance may still exist. The Empire won't just allow this. Vex finally spoke. The Hegemony fleet will arrive to find Earth heavily defended and your invasion force gone. Harmon finished. And by then, we'll have already established beachheads on multiple fronts. A human officer approached, saluting. General, the Council is ready for Commander Vex's intelligence briefing. Harmon nodded. Thank you, Major. He turned to Vex. Shall we? They walked through the massive ship, which Vex now understood was called the Retribution for a reason. It represented humanity's answer to countless conquered worlds, their promise of liberation. The briefing room contained a mixture of humans and representatives from 7 other species the Voldarians had subjugated or attempted to conquer. Seeing them working together still unnerved Vex. Prey species weren't supposed to unite like this. An older human female rose as they entered. Harmon had introduced her previously as Admiral Helena Reed, the architect of humanity's defense strategy. Commander Vex, she acknowledged. Thank you for agreeing to this briefing. Your insights on Imperial defense systems will be invaluable for our first wave. Vex took a seat, aware of the irony. He had come to conquer this world, and now he was helping them plan the counterattack against his own empire. Before we begin, Admiral Reed continued, I believe you had questions about how we managed to prepare so thoroughly. Vex nodded stiffly. Your level of preparation suggests foreknowledge beyond what should have been possible. Reed gestured to a Xanthi scientist. Dr. Trell, would you explain? The Xanthi rose. His species had been one of the first to face Voldarian aggression, nearly a century ago. When our exploratory vessel crashed on Earth 200 of your cycles ago, we expected to be destroyed or enslaved. Dr. Trell explained. Instead, the humans helped us. As we learned their languages and cultures, we recognized something unique. Humans are extraordinarily adaptive and innovative. Trell activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. We warned them about the Voldarian Empire. Rather than panic, they began to prepare. They incorporated our technology, improved upon it, and developed new applications we had never considered. But that doesn't explain how you knew exactly when and how we would attack, Vex argued. A smile crossed Reed's face. Predictive analytics, Commander. For decades, we studied every Voldarian conquest, identified patterns in your strategies. We planted passive sensors in deep space that could detect your fleet movements without being noticed. Harmon added, we knew you were coming 2 years ago, when your scout vessels began mapping our system's edge. We tracked your approach, analyzed your formation, and predicted your exact attack vector. Vex felt a cold realization. You could have attacked us before we reached Earth. Why wait? The room fell silent for a moment before Admiral Reed answered. Because we needed your invasion fleet intact, she said simply. We needed your ships. My ships, Vex asked, confused. The ripple drive works, Commander, but it requires enormous energy. By allowing your invasion to proceed initially, then capturing your vessels with their power cores intact, we gained enough energy reserves to power our entire liberation fleet. The strategic brilliance was undeniable. They had not just defeated his invasion, they had harvested it for resources. And now, Reed continued, with your ship's power cores integrated into our vessels, we're ready to begin the liberation campaign. The holographic display shifted to show a map of Voldarian-controlled space, far more detailed than should have been possible. We'll strike simultaneously at these 3 worlds. Reed indicated. Based on your intelligence, these colonies are lightly defended since most of your military was committed to the Earth invasion. Vex stared at the battle plan with a mixture of dread and reluctant admiration. The humans hadn't just prepared to defend their world. They had planned for this exact moment, when they would take the fight to the stars. The age of Voldarian conquest is over, Commander, General Harmon said quietly. Whether your empire accepts it now or learns it the hard way is up to them. As the briefing continued, Vex understood with perfect clarity. The invasion of Earth hadn't just failed. It had awakened a sleeping giant. 6 months later, Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance, watching as the combined Liberation fleet approached Voldar Prime, the heart of the once mighty Voldarian Empire. The journey that should have taken years had been accomplished in months, thanks to the Ripple Drive technology. "Nervous to see your homeworld, Commander?" asked Captain Miles Turner, the human officer who had been his handler and, surprisingly, had become something approaching a friend. "I never expected to return like this," Vex admitted. "As an advisor to the force that defeated us, the campaign had been swift and decisive. 23 subjugated worlds liberated. The hegemony fleet fractured and scattered after a devastating defeat at the Krell Nebula. The once unassailable Voldarian Empire reduced to its core systems. And throughout it all, Vex had watched with growing amazement as the humans operated. They didn't conquer the worlds they liberated. They freed them, helped establish new governments, then moved on. They built alliances rather than subjugating species. It was warfare with a purpose beyond domination. "General Harmon is requesting your presence in the command center," Turner said. "The final peace delegation is preparing to depart." Vex nodded and followed Turner through the massive vessel. The Defiance was one of humanity's newest ships, built with the combined knowledge of 8 formerly subjugated species. It represented something the Voldarian Empire had never considered possible: unity through cooperation rather than force. In the command center, General Harmon was conferring with representatives from the coalition forces. He looked up as Vex entered. "Ah, Commander, just in time." Harmon gestured to the tactical display showing Voldar Prime. "Your homeworld has agreed to our terms. The High Council has been dissolved, and an interim government is being formed with representatives from all castes." Vex felt a complex mixture of emotions. The empire that had raised him to believe in Voldarian supremacy was gone. Yet he couldn't deny that it had been built on the suffering of countless species. "You will be part of the delegation," Harmon continued. "Your insight will be valuable during the transition." "My people will view me as a traitor," Vex said quietly. "Perhaps at first," Harmon acknowledged. "But they'll come to understand that you helped prevent their annihilation. We could have destroyed Voldar Prime from orbit. Instead, we're offering a path forward, as equals in the new Galactic Coalition." The concept still amazed Vex. Where the Voldarians had sought to rule through conquest, the humans sought to unite through alliance. "There's something I still don't understand," Vex said. "With your technology, your ripple drives and planetary defenses, you could have built an empire more powerful than ours ever was. Why didn't you?" Harmon smiled. "Because that's not who we are. Or rather, that's not who we chose to be." He gestured for Vex to follow him to the observation deck. Below them, Voldar Prime filled the view, a world of towering cities and vast oceans that Vex hadn't seen in over a decade. "Early in our history," Harmon explained, "humans were much like Voldarians. Tribal, territorial, prone to conflict. We fought countless wars among ourselves. But we learned, over time, that cooperation yields greater results than conquest. When the Xanthi crashed on Earth and warned us about the Voldarian threat, we faced a choice. We could either build weapons and become conquerors ourselves, or we could forge something new, a coalition of equals, united against tyranny. Vex considered this. And yet you built warships. You prepared for battle." "We built shields first," Harmon corrected. "Then, when we realized that defense alone wouldn't secure lasting peace, we built ships that could carry those shields to others." The shuttle bay below them opened, and the peace delegation began boarding the vessel that would take them to the surface. "Your invasion forced our hand, Commander," Harmon continued, "but it also created an opportunity to demonstrate that there's an alternative to empire building. Your people will adapt. Voldarians are nothing if not practical." Vex couldn't argue with that assessment. Already, many of his former officers had accepted positions within the coalition forces, recognizing that the future lay in cooperation. "It's time," Harmon said, gesturing toward the shuttle bay. "Ready to help build a new future for your people." Vex took a final look at the stars beyond Voldar Prime, at the galaxy that had changed so dramatically in the months since the failed invasion of Earth. The empire he had served was gone, but something potentially greater was taking its place. "I'm ready," he said finally. As they walked toward the shuttle bay, Vex reflected on the irony. The Voldarian invasion of Earth had indeed gone smoothly, until Earth struck back. But what his people had never anticipated was that Earth wouldn't just strike back with weapons. They had struck back with an idea: that unity was stronger than conquest, that cooperation could triumph over domination. And that idea, more than any weapon, had been the Empire's undoing. The invasion had gone smoothly, until Earth struck back, and in doing so, changed the galaxy forever.